Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindset of a Champion, episode number 3. Today, I am joined by Travis Ortmayer. Travis, would you like to introduce yourself, mate?
Yeah, Travis Ortmayer, known as the Texas Stoneman. I guess done some stuff in strongman, strength sports. Been to the Arnold, was it 5 times? Been third twice. World's strongest man. I've been fifth place in the finals 3 times. If the world championships, I went to the finals 3 years in a row. So I've been to 7 world championships. 2 times America's strongest man. I got a bunch of world records on Atlas stones and various other events. I've done pretty well in my 19 years of strongman.
Yes, sir. And it's a real pleasure to have you on here, man. Obviously, you've had quite the illustrious career, and you're well regarded as one of the greats of the sport. Would you like to take us back in time a little bit and tell me how you got started in the sport of strongman?
Well, I got started, really started lifting weights at 11. I was bullied really bad in 6th grade, and I guess that was probably a positive outlet for all that anger. And it kind of came about because I just wanted to be. Oh, sorry.
It's all
I
right.
wanted to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I wanted to be Conan the Barbarian, and I loved that larger than life character. Um, so I got my first weight set at 11. Started working out in a little room off the side of the garage in South Georgia with the mosquitoes and the humidity and the gnats. And, it never deterred me. I loved it. I always loved it from the time I started. Um, Fast forward a few years, I was trying to be a bodybuilder. I did a couple shows in high school. That didn't turn out very well for me because they were fundraisers for the football team, and I wasn't on the football team. So I didn't place, even though I was the only guy in the whole lineup who knew what a lat spread was. I didn't place. So I thought, this is some subjective bullshit. And I kind of lost interest in bodybuilding. Uh, that was my first hit on bodybuilding. Was just I hated the way the judging worked. And then I remember going to a professional show. I'm sorry, it wasn't a professional show, but it was like a state level amateur show. I'm sitting in the audience and I'm watching guys up on the stage flex, and then these people in the audience it was just so bad. It was the guy would do a pose and everybody would go, "Oh, damn, you see that? Oh," I was like, what did he do? What just happened? Did he knock the guy out next to him, or what happened? No, it was just an ab pose. And I just thought, okay, this is a little too just not for me. Let's leave it at that. I'll leave out any expletives. But I tried powerlifting. Ran into some bad luck. It was first meet I ever did. I went with a friend of mine, and we'd signed up and put in this money to get a bench shirt and to get a squat suit. And, and it was such a big meet that they were running people through really fast. We didn't really know the rules. I really didn't know the rules. I took my first squat out, sank it, and then racked it, and the judge never even gave me the start command. I had no idea that I was supposed to wait for something like that. And then, I made too big a jump for my next attempt and bombed out basically. So we weren't allowed to finish the meet because there were so many people there. They were just bombing people out to get rid of half of them. And that kind of sucked. It was really, it really put me off of any kind of competitive weightlifting, anything. And at that point, I'd never really thought about strongman. I knew I loved watching it on TV. And the guy that I was training with, the guy that I did the powerlifting meet with, his name's Marshall White. He told me that he was going to go do Texas Strongest Man. And I was like, like those guys on TV? We'll never be that strong. What are you, crazy? Those guys are freaks. Nevertheless, he signed up. And then we had about a 5.5, 6 hour trip north from Houston to Denison, right on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. And I remember the whole way there, he was just saying, man, I just don't want to finish last. I just don't want to finish last. I just, I'm so worried about tomorrow. Whatever happens, I hope I don't finish last. I decided I was going to go with him and help him out. And so as he's signing in, talking to the promoter looks over at me and says, why don't you sign up? I said, you know what? What the hell? I'll give it a shot. I'm here. Let's do it. That's when Marshall looked at me and he said, man, I'm glad you signed up, because now, at least now I know I won't take last. Oh, 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 really? All right. I didn't know I had a competitive bone in my body until that moment. And that line, that sentence, that one little moment changed my life, because the next day I went out there with a little bit of fire in my belly and ended up having the absolute time of my life. I had more fun doing that competition than I've ever had doing anything, period. And, at the time I was in school full time. I was working full time. So I got a dog jumping up and grabbing shit. Little puppy. Anyway, so I was thinking about putting weightlifting on the back burner. And it's almost like God gave me this contest as a way of saying, nope, you're going to quit all that shit. You're going to start focusing even more on weightlifting. And this is going to be your life. And so that was it, man. I mean, I quit my job a few months later. And I think I went to school for like another year and a half, but I didn't quite finish my degree because my degree was biotechnology and I actually had to be there. And I was already traveling around too much at that point. School would always be there. I wasn't always going to have the opportunity to fly around and compete overseas and stuff. So that was it, man. Just a quick side note, Marshall White, he ended up making it to World's Strongest Man in 2009. He was in group 2 with Shaw and Savitskis. And, it was just funny because it was two guys with a dream go to some little obscure parking lot competition in August in Texas in 2002. And both made it to World's Strongest Man. So, but that was it for me, man. Once I started competing as Strongman, I had so much fun at that first show. I knew that was going to be my life. So that was kind of my intro to the world of Strongman.
Oh, I really appreciate you sharing that, man. Like, I think it's a great story. It's very inspiring because you started out without this without really any idea of the trajectory, just knowing that you were on one. Like these days, obviously, because we have so much more accessibility to gyms and strength and all this stuff. A lot of people have very quick, like, I know I want to do this and then I'm gonna do this and stuff. Whereas you started in your garage, like lifting random weight sets, kind of not really knowing why you're doing it other than this ephemeral idea of being jacked and Conan and Arnold and I mean, Arnold.
I felt life pulling me. I felt this was just so important. I have to go with it. And I never fought it. I just went with that. It was my heart telling me this is what you want to do.
Right, and you can see how that manifested ultimately, right? Because you did bodybuilding, which was obviously like a medium of you still lifting and the process, but it wasn't quite that spark. And then all it took, as you say, was this friendly confrontation and this chance encounter and this small comp that set off the career of a high level strongman, which is amazing. It's a very it's a really I think it's a very exciting story as well, because it just shows really, like, if you're caught up in the passion of really committing to something, you can go very, very far.
It reminds me of a book. Puppies. It reminds me of a book called The Alchemist. And they bring up the personal legend. And everybody has a personal legend. Everybody has this opportunity. But a lot of people settle for where they're at and, responsible life decisions. And there's nothing wrong with that. But everybody has the opportunity to chase after something that really sets their soul on fire. And, I feel fortunate that this opportunity kind of fell in my lap, and I wasn't tied to anything. So I went with it, so I'm so grateful that I didn't have anything else tying me down. And, when my parents, they went to my second competition, which was a little closer to home. And my dad saw me compete, and I ended up winning that competition. And I think it was the first time he ever saw me like passionate about some kind of sporting event. I mean, I played soccer, I played baseball. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't great at any of them. And, I just kind of did what I could because I didn't really know how to try and excel. He came to that contest and I won like 4 of the 5 events. And he saw I think the fire in my heart. And so he was 100% on board from that day forward. I actually got him into training with me about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months after that. So he went on to win 6 national titles and 1 world title at over 60. He's a total badass. But I think, having that opportunity and having that kind of support, that was, life changing. That wasn't life changing. That was life making, so to speak. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's amazing. I mean, all credit to him to succeed in strongman at that age and do so
Oh yeah.
well, as
Yeah.
well as
He's a
being,
freak.
I'm that genuinely is, that's absolutely amazing. And I love the reference actually with regards to the alchemist, like the idea of creating your own legend. And it's interesting, isn't it, that you were inspired by these like larger than life, like legendary characters like Conan. I think Conan is the best example, just
Yeah,
roving the wastelands, the barbarian doing what he wants and carving out his
exactly.
legacy. Really, that's the story, isn't it? And you did exactly that. So tell me then, you use the phrase, it set your soul on fire, right? Which is a very, visceral kind of metaphor. What was it about Strongman that did that for you?
I mean, it just kind of encompassed everything that I wanted out of weightlifting. It was it was challenging but doable for me. I wasn't great by any means, but I could do it. And it worked hand in hand with my mindset. It worked, with the mindset that I had in the gym growing up. I was borderline psycho. I was very intense. And if I couldn't hit a weight, I was pissed off and I would come back and I would freaking hit that weight. I would put everything I had into it. Strongman kind of rewarded that behavior. It just, the harder I fought and the more I pushed, the better I was getting at it. And it just kind of, it worked in sync with whatever the hell was going on in here. But the other part of it was a little bit of the camaraderie. We didn't really know much about Strongman. We'd flipped a tire because he found a 700-pound tire to train with for that show. But other events like Atlas Stones, we didn't know anything about tacky. Had no idea, never even heard of it. But the guys there were letting us use theirs. First show, they don't know us. Hey, you want to borrow some tacky? Here's the better way to do it. And guys were helping each other out. And it's like, I'm in direct competition with you. And here you are giving me tips and tricks and like making me a better competitor. Okay, wait a second. And I really loved that. I really loved the honorable competition. That meant a lot to me. That was really cool. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than little cliques or groups that this group doesn't like this group, so they try to undermine them at every freaking turn. And that's just a bunch of stupid, petty bullshit. And I hate that. I don't really want to beat a guy because I've cheated him some way. I want to beat a guy when he's at his best. And I know other strongmen, they feel the same way. They don't want to beat me when I'm hurt or when I screw something up. They want to beat me because they've beaten me at my best. That's the real challenge. That's the real reward. First place is cool, but if you've beaten, if it's like 5 guys and the other 4 guys got food poisoning, what good is first place at that point? Kind of empty. It's kind of meaningless. So that's just my take on it. And I think that was the thing, the 2 parts that really stuck out about Strongman for me.
No, I really love that. I mean, especially the second point. I think anyone firstly involved in strength sport will know what Travis is talking about here. Especially when it comes to strongman in particular, which is obviously where you are experienced. But I think it goes back even further than sport. I think if you look at like military cultures in history, you have like the Middle Ages kind of chivalry concept of fair battle, like pitched battle, where you have to meet the enemy, on an even footing and fight until there's a clear victor, right? And there's
Yeah.
all that code built in, and the Japanese, Bushido code of fighting with a clear and honorable outcome, and then there are certain rules for failure and certain rules for victory, and I think that applies very well in sport, and certainly a philosophy I share. If not to jump on
In sport, it's the only way to go in sport. And something you kind of made me think of talking about different cultures. Sport transcends cultural differences. And there's nothing that makes me sadder than thinking about, what was it, like 76 and then the 80 Olympics, where we boycotted the Olympics because they were in Russia, and then Russia turned around and boycotted them in the next Olympics. So you got all these athletes that don't get to compete because of political differences between 2 nations. And I'm thinking, that's such total bullshit. You could be at war with one another, but sport should transcend that. It should transcend all other that petty conflict out there. So yeah, honor is a big thing. Honor is a huge thing with me when it comes to sports.
No, I love that example because you in particular obviously are someone who I think is, you've had a few great battles through your strongman career, but you had a famous relationship, I believe, with the Russian strongman,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mikhail Kolkaev.
yeah.
Um,
Kuklaev is my brother from another motherland.
which was just fantastic to see, again, especially the two like polarized cultures of America versus Russia, the big, Cold War, superpower conflict, right? To see you two, titans of your respective disciplines, coming head to head in live competition was very exciting, I have to say, for fans.
Well, it goes to show that war is a political conflict. War is a conflict between the assholes at the top. The people in Russia and the people in America have no reason to hate each other. They don't hate each other. I don't go to Russia and people are like, oh God, it's an American. Oh, we must persecute and kill him. And likewise, Russians don't come here and the American populace go, oh my God, it's a Russian. We have to kill him. No, it's only the assholes at the top in the White House or at the Kremlin or whatever. It's those guys that have the problem with each other. I don't understand why the rest of us have to sit here and die. It's like all our soldiers going to war over, unfortunately, a bunch of bullshit a lot of times because some greedy asshole at the top deems it necessary. It's I don't even want to go too far into that because that's a political landscape that can get
No, I mean, I definitely agree. And we very well could segue down that road. But I mean, even to your point about sport and honor, like in war, like we have the famous example in the First World War of Armistice Day, between the German and the English teams on Christmas Day playing football with each other
I
across the
love that.
trenches.
I love that
Right?
story. I love that story. I do. 1914, right? Right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that story.
And I'd say we probably, from an Englishman's perspective, probably have more animosity these days on the actual football pitch than we did back then, you know, on the
But
trenches.
you
So
English are pretty famous for your hooligans, so.
I have no idea what you're referring to there, I'm afraid. So just move on.
Fair enough.
You though are obviously you competed in a pretty interesting period in strongman history, right? You competed in the IFSA World Strongest Man split, right, where there were
Oh, yeah.
two big federations, and you spent a lot of time traveling the world, probably more so than competitors do now, actually.
Yeah.
Would you say that you found yourself? How did you know, different environments and cultures affect your performance?
As far as affecting my performance, you know, there's the time change, there's the food difference, there's a variety of factors that normally affect somebody's performance, especially as an athlete, especially. Um, but me personally, it seemed like the more dire the circumstances, the more extreme the circumstances, the harder it was to get there, the better I did. I don't know why. My two of the best contests that I've ever had. One was in Russia. We had to fly to JFK, had the wrong visa, had to go to the Russian consulate, fly out the next day to Moscow, Moscow to Vladivostok. So this is like 2/3 the way around the world. We got to the contest 4 hours before it started. And by we, I mean me and a guy named Andy Vincent. He was a NFL player for a couple of years. So I picked him as my teammate because I knew he was going to be mentally tough. We got there 4 hours before the show started. We had some shitty mayonnaise and celery sandwich on white bread. And then we put our stuff down and we went to the venue and started warming up, basically. You know, after like 30 minutes relaxing in the hotel room. We won 4 out of the 5 events against Team Russia. We friggin' smashed it. It was an incredible result. I mean, I had one of the best deadlift performances I think I've ever had. And, you know, it just the overall day it went really well. And then one of the other best performances I've ever had was in Turkey, 2019. I literally arrived at the hotel as the guys were coming downstairs to get on the bus and go to the venue for the first day's events. So I ran up to the cafeteria at the hotel. I got some rice and a small little, I think it was a steak, but I'm not really sure, maybe ground beef patty, whatever. And I stuffed it in my mouth and then left to go to the venue. I hadn't even had a chance to put my stuff in my hotel room yet. And I ended up winning that contest. So, you know, there's other contests where I've been there for like 3 or 4 days, had a chance to relax, gotten good sleep, and it just had a shit performance. And I don't know what it was. I think my body likes to run on adrenaline and pure just aggression and spite. It seems to work really well for me.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what you said kind of at the beginning of that answer, which was that obviously you find yourself, you know, you're going to be unprepared, you're going to be kind of ready to go. You know, you can't control every variable, certainly, right? Especially when you're performing overseas. And for some reason, for you, that adversity, that the shock of it, you thrive there. There's a danger zone there that keeps you firing, it keeps you going, and elevates your performance even.
It does. It's and that seems to be the theme with my life. It's like I have to make it more difficult for everyone around me for me to really turn on and put in 100%. I don't know why I do that. It used to be I would completely screw up the first event and spend the next 4 or 5 events fighting back to victory. You know, showing up right as the contest was starting kind of eliminated that. And I always did well on the first event, oddly enough, for those shows. And that mindset, it's almost like I need or I want or I enjoy being put in a hole and fighting my way out of it, giving people a head start to really get that competitive fire going. you know, and it's kind of like, you know, I was on top of the world up until 2011, 2012. I was one of the best 2 or 3 guys in the country, one of the best 5 in the world. And yeah, that's when I kind of lost everything. I let my life fall apart. And I remember thinking somewhere in the darkness, in that hell, like the mindset that I had was that I was just giving everybody else a little bit of a head start.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's, you know, reality, that I really think that way, or if that was just a way of justifying where I was at and making it work for me. And it doesn't matter which way I think about it, because the result is I use that as fuel to propel me farther and faster. And I mean, it seemed to work. I gave myself almost too big of a hole to climb out of. um, and it's taken me the better part of 5 years or 4.5 years of training my ass off to get back to where I was. And only now, the last year, 8 months, I'm probably stronger than I've ever been in my life. So, you know, that I think that mindset of making it as nasty and making it as hard and making it as miserable as possible is where I thrive, or at least I tell myself that. And that's what it takes to get me really fired up and really focused and really trying hard. It's kind of like being in school and you have a project due tomorrow. You've had 2 months to work on it, but it's due tomorrow, Monday morning. I wait until like 8 o'clock Sunday night to start doing that project. And I just cram it and I work my ass off and it comes out fine. But if I'd have done a little bit over that 2 month period, it wouldn't have stressed me at all. But it probably would have been a complete shit disaster of a project. It's like I need that adversity.
Right. Seriously, I think that's you know, you describe that as you kind of, that is your mindset, but it's fascinating how that paradigm works, right? So you've acknowledged and validated the fact that you understand you need to be in a hole. You need to be in a position where you're uncomfortable at best and downright, uh, two legs down on your knees before you can kind of restart the engine and then overtake
Yeah.
everyone
Beaten
else.
down, face in the dirt before I could get up.
And it's amazing because you've been in circumstances where that happens artificially, right? It's a product of your environment, like you described with traveling and
Yeah.
variables, and just competitions are being organized on that kind of thing, and that gives you a little boost, right? But it seems you've ingrained that, and that's a belief that you have, right? That you need to be on the back foot. You need to be being actively resilient and fighting back against adversity before you can even start to create momentum. And it's almost like there's an objective correlation, right? The more I'm kicked down, the more I have to suffer, the more momentum I can create in this direction. Like a bow,
Exactly.
you draw the bow this way,
Yeah,
the arrow goes
it's
that
like
way.
loading a spring. The farther you push into that spring, the more pop it's gonna have. Yeah. That's probably right.
And it's crazy because if we keep going with that analogy, like you actively started to load that spring yourself, right? When there weren't enough environmental factors to do it for you, you started to do it yourself. You started to artificially create circumstances, whether it be unconscious or not, right?
Yeah.
That led to that spring being pulled back and fired, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
and you described this particular slump, right, in 2011 onwards, that almost took you too far. And it's crazy how people who, like yourself, who have that desire for kind of extremes of emotion, right, can do that. You can dial something up so far that you almost fall off the other end. And
Because yeah, you draw back on a bow too far, you snap the string.
right. And you've detailed that struggle in depth in another interview that I'll reference with Big Laws, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
I
and
know a
I
couple guys.
and I highly recommend anyone listening to this now, if you want to fully gain insight into that, I recommend going to that video more, because it's you explored in depth there. And I think it really is obviously a period of time that you delved into in depth and needs to be listened to in depth as well, guys. Okay, because if you, I
It's
think
a
it
good
deserves the
story.
time.
It's worth listening to.
Definitely. But now here you are, and you've said that you are, the strongest you've ever been, right?
Yeah.
And you have a metaphor that you like to use now in both in your business and as an athlete, right? Could you describe that a little bit? Because I think that lines into what we're talking about a lot right now.
I think you're referring to the whole Phoenix Rising.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just something that, here we go again. It was always that undercurrent of thought as a kid that always resonated with me. Just like weights and weightlifting always resonated with me. It looked cool. I thought it was awesome. Something about the Phoenix was always really intriguing to me. And then here, fast forward 10, 15 years into my life, and now it's like really becoming a reality, because here I am, this bird in all its glory, bursting into flames and destroying itself and burning the whole world around it. And, once it was all burned to ash, you start to kind of rise up out of it slowly but surely, and hopefully become something more magnificent than you were the first time. So that's kind of where I'm at now. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. And, it's something that I think resonates with a lot of people, because, I mean, let's be real. Everybody fucks up. Everybody screws their life up at some point. Or if they haven't, they're having thoughts that might get them there, because, I mean, there's a reason we have the term midlife crisis. It's because people have had so many expectations placed upon them, and they've followed orders and done what they're supposed to do. They never really figured out who they are, and so they kind of burn their life up. We have people that get into the wrong crowd, and they kind of follow the wrong path. Drugs could be one. They kind of blow their life up. But the thing is, and this is why it's so important not to give up, because suicide is not the answer. I can totally understand why somebody may think that, but once you've destroyed everything, you kind of get a fresh, clean slate to rebuild your life. It's as clean a slate as you are willing to make it. Now, if you're trying to hold on to the past, your slate's not going to be as clean. If you're trying to get back into what you used to do formerly, your slate's not going to be clean, because people will have memories, obviously. So they're going to remember what you did. They're going to remember your mistakes. But it's up to you to keep building and growing out of the ash and becoming, because at some point, it doesn't matter what those people think of you. You rise up enough, they won't be able to deny you. And that's why it's so important to keep going forward and to keep building, because you can always become something greater than you were before. Now, I say that it doesn't always mean you can become greater at the exact same thing you were doing before. There's a lot of things with an expiration date. Like, let's say if you're a runway model and then your life crashes and burns, you may not be able to be a runway model, because 10 years older is not what they're looking for. So you got to find what works for you in your current state. I'm lucky enough that I'm able to keep lifting weights. I say lucky enough, I'm also tenacious enough that I can keep lifting weights. I've had to suffer through a lot of injuries. Most of these injuries are, well, I've had several that were deemed career ending, but I'm just too stubborn to accept that. So I keep going forward, and I'm patient enough to know that the body will heal if given the time and the means to do so. But basically, you got to modify what it is you want to go forward and become. You got to make it work for you. Don't beat your head against the wall going down a dead end road. Find a path that works and build upon it. And there's so many options, especially in today's world. You can always become something better than you were before. just pour your heart and soul into it, and then follow that heart and soul, and find the things that light you up. Find your passion. If you're stuck in a job that you're not passionate about, sit down, think, what is it that I like? What is it that I want to talk about? What is it that I would buy a book and read about before going to bed at night? And follow that. Start down that path. If you find a book that you want to read that tells you how to paint, that tells you the art of sculpting, follow that path and do that. You may need to make ends meet with some job that you don't like, but if you come home and you have that passion, well, that gives you something to think about all day at that job you don't like, and an outlet to release whatever it is that you've pent up from that job you don't like. Find your passion and spend a few hours a day doing it. And find people around you that share in your passion, or build you up or push you to follow your passion. That's a big one. A lot of people get stuck in these groups of people which they themselves don't have any passion. And so if they, misery loves company. If they don't have passion, they don't want you to find it, because that means they have to get pushed out of their comfort zone. And you get this codependent relationship where, I won't push you out of your comfort zone if you won't push me out of my comfort zone. Well, that's not going to get anybody anywhere. So if you've got a passion and you have somebody that's trying to hold you down and keep you away from that passion, it's probably time to lose that person, or use it. I mean, I found a way to use that, because in the hell that I was in, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel with people who are miserable and really don't want to change. And they really don't want you to change, because if you change, that means they'd have to do something. We're talking like drug addicts and, sad people. So when I was changing my life and changing the way I thought, I rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I remember trying to find something to be grateful for every day. And I would tell people, hey, this is making me feel better. I'm grateful for this and grateful for that. Or I'd have this little rock in my pocket and somebody would ask me about it. And I'd say, well, this is my gratitude rock. I'm going to go through my list. I got 5 or 6 things that every time I look at this rock, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for this. And I remember this woman looking at me and going, what do you have to be so happy about? And I was like, well, there's another one to add to my list, because now I know I'm fucking ruffling some feathers. I must be onto something. So I just use that negativity as fuel to keep building my passion, to keep building my gratitude list. Everything is perception. Perception's reality. It's all about how you interpret things. And I could have taken that negativity to go, oh, you're right. I don't have anything. Oh, what am I thinking? Oh man, but see that's where you lose. You let them take your heart and make it sink. That's letting them win. You can't let them win. You have to keep the things that push your heart up into your throat and make you feel fucking excited. And, if somebody tries to drag you down, you have to spin that, just like in judo, you take that momentum and use it against them. Say, oh, well, if you don't like that, that means I must be on the right path, because it makes me feel good. And if it makes me feel good, it makes you upset. I feel even better, because I know you're not where I want to be, if that makes sense.
Right. They're a reference for, the version of yourself that could go down that path. And it gives you a mirror for you to realize, oh crap, I got to put the brakes on this thing and change the direction.
And you may be all the way down that path, but it's a reflection of, oh yeah, maybe I don't want to be here. You're absolutely right.
And from all of what you've just told me, and the metaphor, of course, that is integral to that concept. What stood out to me actually was a quote that I love from the Ultimate Warrior, who when he talks about this, he just says, "My passion is passion, right? My passion is intensity, right?
That's cool.
And it's
That's
not
cool.
it's not like it's not attached to one specific thing. Yes, it's catalyzed through strongman and through strength sport and through, you know, whatever it is you do, right? But the essence, the energy is you, right? It comes from you. It comes from what drives you. It comes from what you connect with, right?
Did the
And
Ultimate Warrior say that?
yeah, it's an amazing speech actually. It's called
I
my
love
passion is
that.
passion, and it's actually him retired when he talks about his career, and he talks about what
Yeah.
drove him to be, you know, the man that he was. And it really resonated with me, and I can see that the same kind of mindset is something that you yourself have you know, been embodied with
Oh,
over the
dude,
last few years or through your whole
I
life,
couldn't agree
evidently.
with that more. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, passion gets me fired up, man. You don't have to love the same thing as me. What I love to see is that you have that feeling that I get about the things I love. That's what I want to share with the world, because that is what I mean. Not only will it bring you up out of the ashes, that will create a whole new world for you. And for someone who isn't burning out their entire world around them, it'll give purpose to their life. Passion is the driver of purpose, and purpose
Right.
is the reason we're here.
Right. And to go back to your story, you know, midlife crisis, that is what you're seeking, right? And I again, I absolutely love the birth, death, rebirth metaphor, because it tacks on to exactly what we were just talking about with regards to the, you know, your that pattern of yours where you know, you create adversity and then simultaneously you overcome adversity, right? You have a death and then a rebirth. And that rebirth is not an entirely new thing. It's still a version of yourself, but it's a version of yourself that's been, you know, leveled up. The essence, the passion, the energy is still there. And if anything, it's now, you know, it's been dialed up, it's been increased, it's been
You've
catalyzed
gained wisdom.
by something. Exactly, right? And as you say, it doesn't have to be in the same thing, the same discipline, but it's something that you have embodied in some aspect of yourself. And I think it's a resonant philosophy in all of human history. Like if you look at mythology, you know, the idea of living, dying, and living again is key to pretty much all, you know, ancient faiths and to religion, right? If you look at
Yeah,
the
Horus, Jesus Christ, several others who were sacrificed, Odin, you know,
right.
they died and came back wiser and stronger.
Right. And there's that individual suffering that results in that growth and that, you know, new version of that person that is born. I mean, Odin is a great example, right? He lost an eye to gain wisdom. But then there's also the collective idea. Like in if we carry on with Norse mythology, you know, you have the event of Ragnarok, which is the destruction of the universe in fire, which is then reborn again in creation, right? And
Yeah,
Christianity has a similar myth with the Armageddon you know, notion, right?
Hinduism as well with Shiva, the destroyer and the bringer of life. Yeah,
Right,
it's
right,
always
right.
the cycle.
It's a cycle, and it's a beautiful metaphor for an individual. And the phoenix is of course like the, I think, one of the more well known images of that, because it is what we do in personal development. It's what we do in the gym as
The
well.
phoenix is the personalized version of the death and rebirth. Rebirth. Yeah.
Right,
The others are kind of a global death and rebirth, the societal death and rebirth, civilizations and, you know, species and eras and all that stuff. Yeah, the phoenix is like personal growth and development
right,
through kind of destroying and rebuilding oneself.
right.
Yeah,
The phoenix is the self, and then maybe the Ragnarok is the event or the period of time, right? Like when you
is
went
on a societal level, civilization level. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Or even yourself, like as you reference, you know, you've suffered this period, this 5 years of kind of purgatory, and then there's this ending and this beginning, right? And that can simply be catalyzed in the ending of your mindset when you stopped the behaviors that were, you know, leading you down that path, and then as you say, you find something to be grateful for. You have your gratitude rock. That's the beginning of the change.
gain real wisdom there. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Finally, on this metaphor, which is a beautiful metaphor, as you can tell by how long we've spoken about it, but I think it's a good metaphor as well for the process in the gym itself. On the basic level, you break down muscle tissue, cause yourself pain, and it rebuilds stronger. You know,
Rebuild. I never thought about that at physical level. Yeah. It's
it's on every level.
an endless cycle right there. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, that's fantastic. As we are, we've been going for some time, and honestly, we could, I think, carry on for much longer. As we bring it to a close today, what final parting word would you like to leave to everyone who's been following along with this so far?
Oh man.
You've given a good speech, to be fair. You don't even have to say anything else after that.
I guess if there's anything to take away from this, one, you don't have to burn the world around you. You don't have to crash and destroy yourself and then rise up from the ashes in order to create something new and better. You can just find something you love to do and go that route. And it's so important to figure out what you enjoy doing. That way you find passion. And once you've got a passion for something, you now have purpose. And purpose is the secret to life. It's not happiness. It's not finding love. It's not, it could be raising a family, but it doesn't have to be raising a family. If that's what you're passionate about, then that's your purpose. Absolutely. If it's racing cars, if it's architecture and you want to build some grand building, pour your heart and soul into it, man. Find what drives you. What passion do you have? And then turn that into the driving force of your life. It doesn't have to overwhelm your life. Just spend a little bit of time each day on it, because all these people, everybody talks about happiness nowadays. I don't want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I wish the whole world was happy. It's like, well, fuck, the whole world can be happy if they stop looking for happiness. Happiness is not a destination. It's a process along the way. It's the road traveled. The road being passion, purpose. You find those, you will be happy. Even when you stub your toe on that road or, trip over a root, whatever. If you have purpose, it doesn't matter what happens to you. You're going to be happy. You're going to be content with life.
Fantastic, man.
The best thing I could leave with.
No, it really is. It really is. And that was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining us today. And everyone, please, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and let us both know what you guys think. All right. Take care, my man.
Good talking to you, brother.
Awesome.